Wonder if you've ever thought, why me? Why has this happened to me? Because that's the message at the centre of Job's complaint. Job's whole life has gone wrong. Everything around him has fallen apart. And he doesn't know why. His friends come to comfort him, but instead they tell him all the reasons that his life has probably gone wrong. They tell him why he probably deserves these terrible things that are happening. And when Job says he can't think how he might have offended God, why God might be allowing these things or making these things happen, his friends just press him even harder. He feels completely alone without God and without anyone who understands. Job is desperate to be able to plead his case, to be able to see God and speak to God and ask why things have gone so wrong for him. The book is full of incredible poetry and beautiful writing, some incredible ideas, and even the things that the friends say seem to be good theology. They seem to make sense. The friends say, well, if you were living right, then these things wouldn't have happened. And in Job's time, many people thought. In fact, parts of the Bible sound like they're saying, if you live right, then good things will come to you. But Job is one of the other books with a slightly different message. It balances the view that if you live right, then good will happen. And it says, why do the righteous suffer? Why do bad things happen to good people? God eventually turns up at the end of the book of Job, but he doesn't give Job the answer Job wants. Instead of explaining to Job why these terrible things have happened, instead of telling Job what's going on behind the scenes, which you and I, the people who hear the story, know, God says to Job, who are you to question me? Were you there when I created the universe? Do you sustain it? Do you know how the world works or what's going on? In one way, that's a satisfying answer. I'm not sure God would be God if we could completely understand him. But in another sense, that's not the answer we want, is it? The whole story begins with God and Satan talking, and Satan saying Job is only good because you bless him, and then God allowing Job to be tested. But God doesn't tell Job that. And while it's comforting to have an all-powerful, all-knowing God who doesn't answer to us, we long for more. Job was rewarded for his righteousness at the end of the story. But I wonder if that was enough. Because not all of his questions were answered. Because he didn't necessarily have the audience with God that he wanted. But all this sets us up for the New Testament. Job longed for a mediator, someone to stand with him and plead his cause to God. Job longed for understanding, to know why God allowed suffering. And in the New Testament, we find God not distant from the suffering of the world, but right there in the midst of it. In fact, we find God in his Son, Jesus Christ, suffering with us and for us. We find the mediator who could speak to us and tell us what the Father is saying, and could tell us that if we had seen him, we had seen the Father. The book of Job leaves us with questions that Jesus Christ begins to answer. In the book of Job, we see that ultimately everything is about whether God is given glory or not. And even in the tragedy and suffering Job faces, he is still able to honour God. Perhaps you are suffering or struggling. Perhaps you are wondering why. Maybe some Christian friends are not being very helpful, suggesting that there might be something hidden or wrong in your life you need to fix. But maybe your suffering is simply because evil is here on the earth. And God does see you, and he is with you. And you can take your complaint to God just as Job wished he could. And you have a mediator to stand between you and the Father. and that's the Son himself. And so if you don't understand, be encouraged. You have an almighty, powerful God who is difficult to understand. And yet he has shown you that he loves you completely, that he is with you and for you, and that he is suffering with and for you, and that he will redeem all of this, and that he is working for his glory and your ultimate good. Amen.